I wake up early in the morning for a trip to Sintra, Cabo Roca, and Cascais. It was a pleasant morning and I walked down to the cobblestone streets of Lisbon to my pickup point. I booked a tour from the Viator app for a one-day trip to Sintra, Cabo Roca, and Cascais. Traditional Portuguese cobblestone pavement, known as Calcata Portuguesa, can be a nuisance to walk on high-heeled or to race across on rainy days, but it is undoubtedly one of the most beautiful forms of urban art in Portugal. A symbol of the country's beautiful historical centers, Calcata Portuguesa is, after all, made for walking and enjoying the view without haste, including the one beneath your feet. There even is a city monument to the pavers. Two bronze figures, one crouched and chipping at a stone in his hand, the other using a maco to tamp the surface. The statues, created by Sergio Stacchini in 2006, used to be tucked away on a side street, but in 2017 they were moved to a more prominent place, next to the Grand Hotel Avenida Palace in the central Praça dos Restauradores. A plaque at the site reads, "Tribute from the city of Lisbon to the pavers who build the ground we tread." If you walk through the historical center of any Portuguese city or town, you will quickly realize that art is not only present in the facades of buildings or statues present in the streets and roundabouts. If you look down, you will see that the love of the Portuguese people for beautiful things and pride in preserving their century-old culture and history is equally present under our feet. I reached my place and get into the touring car and we started riding towards Sintra. Our first stop will be the Pena Palace. The Pena Palace of Sintra is a Romanticist castle completed in 1854. It is situated on a top of a hill above the town of Sintra and can be easily spotted from Lisbon on a clear day. The National Monument is known for its architectural features and the vast forested park welcomes thousands of visitors every year. I was watching the beauty of Lisbon from the car. The tour guide was explaining the history of Lisbon and Sintra. I booked a small group tour trip from Lisbon to Sintra and the other two places, which I mentioned before. It will cost you €80 with an English tour guide and all travel expenses with sightseeing. But you can reach Sintra in cheap ways. Sintra lies within the Serra Sintra Hills, 25 kilometers to the west of Lisbon. The recommended means of travel from Lisbon to Sintra is by train, and there are two different trail services, both of which are equally useful for tourists. They are Rocio Station to Sintra, Oriente Station to Sintra, Via Rio entre Campos, and Seat Rio stations. The Rocio Sintra Route 1 is typically used by most visitors as it departs from the historic center of Lisbon and is close to the popular tourist districts of Baixa, Alfama, and Barro Alto. The Oriente Sintra Route 2 is generally used by those visitors traveling to Sintra from the airport, the Seat Rios bus station, or from a train connection. Oriente train station is the main intercity train station of Lisbon, with all express train services into Lisbon stopping here. There are bus services connecting Lisbon to Sintra, but the journey times are longer than the train. For most visitors, the location of the bus stations are not as convenient as the train stations. Due to the popularity of Sintra, there can be long queues at Rocio station for tickets. Our advice is to always start a trip to Sintra as early in the day as possible. Finally, we reach the Sintra Village. Sintra is a village north of Lisbon and lies at the foot of the Sintra Mountains. It has a rich history and is over 2,000 years old. Why do you want to visit Sintra? It is full of palaces, and there are also several impressive castle gardens to discover. Thanks to all these amazing sites, the historic center of Sintra is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Your Palacio da Pena expedition starts even before you reach the palace doors. If you choose to park your car at the first parking spot, your climb to the hilltop is adventurous and beautiful. Walk by different species of plants and trees from across the world as you make your way to the main entrance of the palace. Or you can choose to drive or take a tuk-tuk to the main entrance, explore the insides of the Grand Castle, and descend through the lush green gardens on your way back to the parking lot. Here is what amused me on my tour. The site of Pena Palace used to be a medieval chapel dedicated to Our Lady of Pena until it was ordered by King Manuel I to build a monastery that was donated to the Order of Saint Jerome. However, by the 18th century, it was majorly damaged by the Great Lisbon earthquake. Fortunately, the chapel managed to survive without being ruined at all, which surprised the Portugal king Ferdinand II. It was then decided by the king to acquire the monastery and its surroundings to build what we see today as the Grand Pena Palace. The castle was built with the purpose to serve as a summer residence of the king. However, after his death, the palace was passed into the possession of his second wife Eliza Hensler, Countess of Edla, who later sold the palace to King Louis. In 1889, it was purchased by the Portuguese state and was later classified as a national monument and transformed into a museum. The Pena Palace houses a rich profusion of styles resembling a lot of exotic tastes of Romanticism. It houses a mix of several architectural styles such as Neo-Gothic, Neo-Manueline, and New Romanesque, along with other Oriental styles such as Neo-Moorish and Indo-Gothic, most of which have become prominent since the major renovation in the 1840s. As I entered through the main entrance, the vibrant shades of red and yellow facades caught my eye. The grand stone staircase, a Gothic-styled cloister, the statues of mythical creatures from Portuguese fairy tales, and the higher-raised spherical ribbed vault domes were the most unique pieces of art I had seen in all of Europe. The Palacio Nacional da Pena sits atop a jagged rocky outcrop on one of the highest hills of the Sintra landscape. The base structure of the palace is formed around an abandoned Hieronymite monastery, and aspects of this original structure can still be seen. The main courtyard is a two-story Manueline cloister, and the Nossa Senhora da Pena chapel has been barely altered since the 16th century. The chief architect was of German nationality, taking inspiration from the Neuschwanstein Castle in Bavaria, his travels through Asia and Africa, and from Portugal. The main tower, though painted rose red, has many characteristics of the Torre Belém Lisbon, and the spikes on the gateway resemble the 16th century Casa dos Bicos in Alfama. Each room of the palace tells a different story and has drawn inspiration from various decor styles around the world. The furniture in the dining room transports you to a royal feast, and the view from the bedroom's balcony of the thick green forest is nothing short of captivating. The palace terraces are the showstoppers and make for an amazing photo op. All this apart, the Queen's Terrace was my personal favorite. It is the highest of them all, nestled on the background of yellow facades, and flaunts a gorgeous panorama of the surrounding valley. Many of the elements of the convent were well preserved, including the cloister, the dining, the sacristy, and the Manueline Renaissance chapel. All of it was later moved to the new section of the palace that featured a wide and clock tower. The key highlight would definitely be the Queen's Terrace, as it displayed a sundial cannon that's used to fire daily at noon. The clock tower was completed later in 1843. We left the palace and went to the historical center of Sintra, where we had free time to explore the town, visit Sintra National Palace, and had some lunch. For dessert, try a travesero or a quillada, two delicious local pastries. Next destination is Cabo Roca from Sintra. Cabo Roca is the westernmost point of mainland Europe. Rugged cliffs meet the Atlantic Ocean in this place of natural beauty where sea, land, wind, and forests come together to create a unique atmosphere. When the Earth was thought to be flat and have a beginning and an end, many believed that Cabo Roca was one of the ends of the known world at the time. From the edge of the promontory, you can see a huge expanse of the open sea, dunes, beaches, cliffs, and trails to walk along, all of which make Cabo Roca an obligatory stop. Around Cabo Roca, tall rocky cliffs stand more than 100 meters 328 feet above the water. The place is quite windy due to the geographical conditions, but the sunset alone is worth a visit. There are some trails that connect the place to the Sintra mountain range. Perched on a cliff is the fabled Cabo Roca Lighthouse, which began operating in 1772. It was one of the first in Portugal to be built for this purpose, and today is the third oldest lighthouse along the Portuguese coast. Lewis Camus, in his epic poem Os Lusíadas the Lusiads, described Cabo da Roca as where the land ends and the sea begins. The next destination is Cascais. Cascais is a beach town in Greater Lisbon, Extremadura, Portugal, at the end of the mouth of the River Tagus as it meets the ocean, with spectacular beaches to be found on its Atlantic shorelines. The combination of maritime leisurely charm, strategic position, and location close to Lisbon made it a favorite residence of the Portuguese royal family and several other nobles, and one of Portugal's first holiday resorts.